Welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore the moments and experience that shape who we have become. Today, I'm joined by Kristen Crabtree, author, certified divorce coach, and self-described archaeologist of our self. Kristen has helped people rediscover who they are beneath survival roles and expectations. After living a 22 years of psychological abusive marriage, and confronting underserved childhood trauma. She rebuilt her identity from the inside out through her work and her book. Be the you that is more, be the you that is more you than you have ever been. I think Kristen show that self-trust and aliveness are always possible. It's really a pleasure having you on the show, Kristen.
It's so nice to be here. Really, it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And the title of your book is really lovely. And just rereading it again is quite really lovely. It just shows that there's a whole lot of things to unpack from the book. Yeah, good to have you on the show. Yeah, thank you. So you have spoken about rebuilding your identity from the inside out. What did that process look like in the beginning?
Yeah, so the first thing was realizing that I was completely out of touch isn't even the right phrase. I was completely disassociated from and disconnected from my my truth, my true self. In 1999 was pretty I was deep in exploration, but I sort of kind of knew who I was or who I was becoming. But I did wind up getting into a psychologically abusive marriage for 22 years. And during that time, I evaporated. Like, I don't even know where I went. And it was poof, and it was gradual over time. I feel very grateful that I was able to get out. And once I did, I began to realize that I had absolutely no sense of who I was, what I wanted, what was important to me, what my values were, what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't even know things like, what style of clothes do I want to wear? How do I want to decorate my home? Like even really basic things I didn't know because I had always lived by what she wanted. And so when I say rebuilding from the inside out, it really was, I call it an archaeological dig. So after I left, I was in a lot of mental turmoil, a lot of emotional turmoil, and all I wanted was clarity. As I started to get some clarity, and I did that through meditation, which you and I can dive into that deeper if you want. There's a lot of misconceptions about meditation, but it really is the path to truth. And once I started getting into that, I began to get little glimmers of, who I am and what my truth is. And I was sitting on my sofa and I was talking to my true self, and I literally talk out loud because it's the only way I can make sure that the response, like I don't filter at all. So I'll say, "Hey, true self, this is Kristen. Like, what am I supposed to be doing next?" And then whatever comes to mind is what my true self wants me to know. And my true self said, "Go find the book you wrote in 1999." And I barely remembered writing the book. But I'm a digital hoarder, so I was able to find it, and I went and looked at it, and it was it started with 8 exercises designed to help you hear your truth. And I did them, and I remember thinking, "Wow, who wrote these? These are really good." Um, and I wasn't sure if my true self wanted me to rewrite the book or, what, but I just went ahead and started going through the book myself as the student instead of the author, and realized that what I had created back then was an excavation to yourself, to your truth. And so when building from the inside out is literally what I did. I dove deep into the very crevices of what makes me me. And I don't mean the ego part that you see here.
Yeah,
I mean the real part
there.
of what we see. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. That must really be a bit difficult owing to the fact that when you get started out, you were moving from one place to the other. At one point, you lost yourself. And at At that point when you make reference of that, I was like, oh, that one has actually been a lot. Yeah. So you said we have not been broken. We have adapted. How did that shift change how you view your own stories?
So at first, when I left, I was very entrenched in my victim story. And the psychological abuse wasn't the first part of my victim story. I was sexually assaulted and raped when I was young. And the psychological abuse actually built on top of that. So there were layers and layers and layers of, trauma and identity entrenched in the trauma and in the victimhood. And so I felt very broken, but being broken, there's a couple things that work against you when you think of yourself as broken.
Yeah.
One is it's disempowering. It's a place of lack of power, literally. And from there you can't do anything. What I believe, like I don't believe in self-help. I don't believe in learning to be the best version of you, because that implies that there was something wrong to begin with. And we really are like super amazing. All of us are like really amazing. And we're brought here, whatever that means to you, to do incredible things. But we lose touch with that. And I believe that the process of being here is a process of remembering our truth, remembering our past, but also remembering our future. That there is a future there that we can remember and step into that and really live in alignment. And when I say we're not broken, that's what I mean. We adapt. We adapt. And I think that's the other part of this is sometimes when people start to peel away the layers, there's like shame and guilt associated with that, because they think, like, how could I have been lost for, or why did, or, all these like sort of self-blame thoughts come in. And really what we are usually doing in those cases is being safe. Like we're creating a way of existing in this world to keep us protected and to keep us safe. And so it's not that we're broken, it's that we were protecting ourselves. And I
Yeah.
mean like sometimes in a really real
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I think it's really, really lovely, especially with your analogy being that, yeah, we are all amazing. We are sent down here to do amazing things, but during the course of being here, a whole lot of things happen, and we get to start adapting instead of manifesting the real thing that we are in. Being that we are adapting, it's a whole lot of things we need to kind of undo for we to start manifesting again. And those processes might be very, very crazy, being that it can bring shame, it can bring trauma, it can bring a whole lot of other things, being that we view ourselves from people's perception, and until we actually more like get rid of it and just being ourselves, we can actually get to manifest that which we're supposed to do. And it's really, really amazing looking at it. So what was one surprising thing is you rediscover about yourself along the way?
See, surprising. The funny thing is because it's a remembering, I don't really know that there was anything surprising. I haven't really thought about that question, but it really is like coming home to who I am. And so in doing that, there's not really a surprise. I guess the only surprising thing is that I now know I'm amazing. Like I didn't know that a year ago. And now I know that. And it's not an egotistical thing because you're amazing. And my dog who's barking at the door is amazing. It's not like unique to me, but me knowing it is a surprise, is special.
Wow, amazing, amazing, amazing. So you focus on self rediscovering rather than self help. What is the difference, and why does it matter?
Yeah, so I touched on that briefly. And again, it's the difference between having to, like, basically put on another mask, like personal development, self help, that can all just
Yeah.
be putting on another mask, like the 10 steps to whatever. It's just putting on somebody else's mask of what you should do and what you should be. And really, what I believe is that the only person who knows what's best for me and my truth and what I'm supposed to do on this planet is me. Like, there's nobody else who knows that. And, same for you and same
Yeah.
for you,
Yeah.
whoever's watching this. Like, nobody knows your truth except you, and so really the magic is in being able to hear that for yourself. And so it's not really about helping yourself or developing yourself. It really is about reaching in there and finding the you that is really you and then stepping into that in the now.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Thank you for the clarification. I think it just speaks volumes to not just adapting to a whole lot of rules, to putting a whole lot of facets in terms of how will I make reference of it? A whole lot of packaging. Yeah, but rather discovering the real who you are, not just following the whole lot of rules and regulations that make you ignore more like everything that you need to kind of take notice of to become you. I think looking at it in that very way, it's very, very lovely. So living without full clarity can be so terrifying. How do that uncertainty shape your healing and growth?
Yeah. I remember when I left, all I wanted was clarity. I think that like that word was I would go to crystal metaphysical shops and get the candles that said for clarity. I would get journals and I would write clarity, clarity. Like all I wanted was clarity. And I think that not having clarity is what got me so lost. I mean, really. So it's that being able to see that little glimpse of light down the tunnel and walking towards that and that process of doing that. Sometimes you're on your hands and knees in the mud and sometimes you're standing up, moving, but yeah, it's that process.
Oh, wow, amazing, amazing. So your book uses the metaphor of an archaeological dig. Why was that the right framework for self-discovery?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it really felt like digging through, the layers
The
of
layers.
everything. And, I mentioned trauma, and it's not just about trauma. People who were born into blessed families with plenty of money and people with great attitudes about child rearing, they still wear masks. So it's still a process of removing those masks. Some people have more stuff on top of them because of, whatever they endured in their life. But even people with like these ideal childhoods, still, they're wearing masks for the most part. And so the archaeological dig is about, peeling through all of that. It's about uncovering the moments that really illuminate and elucidate who we are. And I call those the artifacts. So the process is you first become an archaeologist, and there's 5 sections to the book. 4 sections are sort of the dig, and then the 5th section is about integrating everything that you learned. 4 sections, each one relates to a different body. So the mental body, emotional body, physical body, and spiritual body. The first chapter in each section is the same. It's called The Archaeologist, and it's where you're learning, you're sort of in training. You're getting the credentials, you're getting equipped with the knowledge of that body so that you can then evaluate what resonates for you. So the first chapter in every section provides the reader with, the latest science, philosophy, metaphysics, theory, whatever related to that body so that you can then say, okay, well, this part really resonates with me. This part really makes sense because again, I'm not here to dictate anything. I'm not the
Yeah.
expert. I'm here to provide people with tools that help me and might help them. And so, like, the mental body talks about, neuroplasticity and cognitive bias. And I make it as simple and as easy to understand for anybody as possible. And I think I've done a pretty good job of that. People have told me I have. So if those words initially frighten you, don't let them. It'll be really easy. The first chapter is to give you those kinds of tools and understanding. The second chapter within every section is the artifact, the excavation. Sorry, that's the word I'm looking for, the excavation. And what you're doing in the excavation is you're looking for artifacts. The excavation is made up of questions and exercises. And this is really the meat of the book and what's so important about the book because again, there's no 7-step formula to you. It's really about digging through and finding the pertinent memories, experiences that really make you who you are, that indicate who you really are. And those chapters are twice as long as the other chapter because it's the work. It's where the work lies. It's made up of like 100 questions. Again, this is per body. You
Yeah.
get about 100 questions and you get between 20 and 40 exercises. And from that process, you start to gather the artifacts. And then the third chapter in every section is what I call the web. And it's a fictional story that just demonstrates how one little change in your life can ripple out, not just into your life, but to other people's lives and into the world. So those 3 chapters within each section are designed to give you a lot of information, a lot of data about you. The final section on integration is where you step into the role of the architect. So, archaeologist, artifact, architect. And as the architect, it's not about setting smart goals and, having this, again, step-by-step process to get to your destination. Because I think a lot of people expect that to be able to get to that destination, it's going to take time. It's going to take me setting little goals to get to the big goal. Well, I actually talk about the concepts of retrocausality and consciousness and the artificial construction of time. And again, those words may intimidate some people right this second, but when you get in the book, it won't. It's very simple. But what it's designed to do is open up your mind to the possibility that the future you is here now, because there is the ability to, instead of waiting to be your future self, to say, how would my future self be acting today? And be that person today, which then puts you into that state immediately instead of having to wait for forever. And that's how I was able to do transformation so quickly, which is why I'm really excited to share this with people, because it doesn't have to take 10 years to get you where you wanna go. You you can be there now.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Kristen. I think there's a whole lot to learn here, especially when you're diving into the various ones. Uh, Depending on the one that actually speak volumes to each person's when they go through the book. And I think it's really lovely being that it have different concepts. And at the end of the day, it's you being able to kind of dig and dig and dig and dig and uncover a whole lot of layers of things that are actually more like cover the discovery of this you and becoming who you are really meant to be. Yeah, thank you. So in your work, the client is the expert. How can someone begin trusting themselves after feeling invisible for so long?
So it's one little moment at a time. I think one of the most important nuggets that I got early on in my self-discovery or self-reclamation process was understanding the loop that our thoughts cause our emotions then cause our behaviors then cause our experiences, which then cause our thoughts, right? And so when you, one, identify that and realize, okay, that's what's happening here. And then two, develop the ability to be aware and to catch it faster, to then three, stop it and align with yourself. If you do that enough times, even if it's little teeny weeny little things, your self-trust starts to develop. And again, it can develop quickly the more diligent you are, the more persistent you are about catching that pattern. So it is just one, just like with trust building with somebody
Yeah,
else, if they violate your trust, or if you don't know if you can trust them, it's usually just, one little test after
yeah.
another until finally you're like, okay, yeah, yeah, I trust you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. This is really amazing. And thank you for making it more clearer. So many people feel stuck between wanting change and fearing it. What is usually underneath that tension? And what is the first step forward?
So the first step, and this is where we get into that topic of like meditation. The first step in the change and the transformation is quieting the chatter, because if the chatter is there, then nothing else can really happen. Nothing can change, nothing can happen. Once you're able to quiet the noise, even if it's just turning down the volume a tiny bit, again, those moments of awareness open up. Quiet to awareness is what enables you to then really make change, make transformation. And really the only way to quiet the chatter that I have found is meditation. That word scares a lot of people, and so I want to put some big asterisks and talk about that for a minute. I was really intimidated by the word meditation as well, because when I was young, I had tried a lot of different types of meditation, mostly Eastern, where you're supposed to, quiet your mind or focus on a candle flame or something like that. And I always felt like a failure because I couldn't do it. I couldn't shut the mind up enough. And so I sort of abandoned the idea of meditation. But what I have come to learn and what is so amazing is that meditation takes so many different forms, that there's one that works for you, whoever you are. There's one that works for you. It can be as simple as when you're eating your food, to notice the different, instead of scrolling on your phone or watching TV, to just sit with your food and notice the textures and notice the different flavors and feel how it, feels in your mouth. And that is a form of meditation. Walking in nature and making it a goal to notice some different, colors or plants or shapes that you hadn't noticed before. That's meditation. Engrossing yourself in something that you love to do, whether it's art or physical activity, that can be meditation. So it doesn't have to look like sitting cross-legged and saying, "Oh," which is great because that works too. But it's not the only thing. And I think when people have, sort of that idea in their head of that's what meditation is, then it's very intimidating. But finding some process that works for you now, and actually that will probably change, what works for you now. Not that it won't work later, but you might find some other things that you want to play with too, which is what I've done. I found one that finally made me realize I could meditate. And then once I got comfortable with that and learned how to do that, now I do all different types of meditation. People who want to experiment with a type that I like a lot, I created these, I call them mind expanding experiences, me squared. And I have them for free on my website, so you can download them. They're 4 audios, about 10 to 20 minutes long, and they may or may not work for you because not every, thing
Yeah.
works for everybody, but I certainly offer them to your listeners, to your viewers, and if they want them, they can go check them out.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Katrin. This is really, really lovely. Thank you, Kristen. So, looking back, what will you say to yourself at the very start of your journey?
What keeps coming to mind is Rosie the Riveter. You can do it. You're too young to know Rosie the Riveter, but, in the United States during World War II, we had World War
Yeah.
II, whatever, one of the big wars. Rosie the Riveter had to, all the women had to go to work in the factories to build guns or whatever, and, there's "We can do it." So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would tell myself.
Can definitely do it. It's just that you can do it does not mean you are not going to face the weakness, the ups and downs, the traumas, the period when you don't understand what is going on, you don't have clarity. It doesn't negate this particular part, but definitely you pass through it and yeah, becomes better and everything becomes well. And that's really amazing. So what is going to be your final word to my audience?
So the final word to the audience would be a tool to quiet your mind, create awareness around your thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and experiences, and tweak little things here and there. Just choose differently. Make a different choice somewhere in your day. And I offer people a half hour to just chat with me for free. So I'll give you the link that you can give to your peeps, and they can schedule some time to just kind of poke around and see if there's some ideas for how I can help them get on their path.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Kristen. So, apart from that, how can my audience connect with you for those who want to connect with you, for those who want to follow your works too? And for those who want to reach out, where is the best platform to do this, and how can they reach
Yeah.
out to you?
I'll give you the link, but it's, you.com, so YOU, the number 2, the word point, POINT, the number 0.com, you.com.
All
And
right.
there's just a link. It's a link to schedule with me and chat with me. It is totally free, no pressure, no, this is my passion project. It's what I love to do. I could talk about it forever. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Christy. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Christy, thank you so much for sharing your stories and insight with us today. Your honesty and clarity are deeply powerful. If you'd like to explore your own path to self-rediscovery or experience one of Christine's reflection exercise, you can visit u2point.com to book a free private conversation. As today's conversation reminds us that it's never too late to trust yourself, reconnect with who you are, truly are, and feel alive again. Thanks for listening to the Making of Me podcast. If this episode resonates with you, please subscribe and share with someone. It's really a pleasure once again having you, Kristen. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.